Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another learning and knowledge sharing video. I am Dr. Danish and today we are going to review an important TED talk called What We Are Learning from Online Education by Daphne Koller. Online education has completely changed the way we think about learning. A few years ago, when we talk about education, we normally imagine a classroom or teacher standing in front of students, textbook, notebook, examination, and a fixed timetable. But today, learning can happen almost anywhere. You can learn from home, from your office, from a university campus, or even while traveling. You can watch a lecture on your mobile, participate in an online interview, discuss an idea with learners from another country, and access educational material from some of the world leading universities. And this is exactly why Daphne Koller TED Talk is so interesting. She doesn't simply ask whether online education is convenient, she asks a much bigger question. What can we actually learn from the experience of educating millions of people online? In this review, I will discuss the main idea of her talk, what makes online education powerful, what limitation we should recognize, and what lesson educator and student can apply in real world. Before discussing the main ideas, let's briefly understand the speaker. Daphne Koller is a computer scientist and educator who has played an important role in development of online education. She was one of the co-founder of Coursera, a platform that brought university level courses to learners around the world. So when she talks about online education, she is not discussing it only from theoretical perspective. She had been directly involved in building systems through which a large number of people can learn online. And that gave her talk an interesting perspective. The important point is the technology is not simply replacing classroom, it is allowing educators to experiment with new ways of teaching and learning. This is one of the central ideas I take from this TED Talk. One of the biggest ideas is that online education gives us an opportunity to rethink traditional education. For many years, education followed a relatively fixed model. A teacher delivers a lecture, students listen, they take notes, then they go home and study. Later, they take an examination. But online education allows us to break this model into smaller and more interactive components. For example, instead of watching for 1 hour lecture continuously, a course can divide the lecture into shorter sections. A learner can watch a concept, answer a question, receive feedback, and then continue. This creates a much more active learning experience. And this is an important lesson for traditional education as well. We should not assume that because something has been done for decades, it's automatically the best way to do it. Technology gives us opportunity to ask, can we teach this concept better? Can students practice more? Can we provide feedback faster? Can we understand where students are struggling? These questions are valuable even inside a traditional classroom. Another powerful idea is scale. A traditional classroom has physical limitation. If professor teaches a class of 30, 50 or perhaps 100 students, there are practical limits to how many learners can participate effectively. But online education can potentially reach thousands or even millions of learners. This changes the relationship between teacher and student. Imagine a professor creating a high quality course. Instead of delivering that lecture to one classroom every semester, the course can potentially reach learners across different countries. A student in Pakistan can learn from a university professor in the United States. A learner in Africa can study with the students in Europe. Someone working full time can take courses in the evening. Someone living far away from major university can access education content that previously may have been unavailable. This is a major democratizing force. Education become less dependent on physical location. And that is perhaps one of the most exciting possibilities of online learning. This is the question that often comes up our whenever we discuss technology and education. Is teacher no longer more important? This is the question that often comes whenever we discuss technology and education. If online courses we can reach thousands of students, we still need teachers. My answer is absolutely yes. Technology can distribute knowledge, but education is more than information delivery. A good teacher provides context, a good teacher motivates students, a good teacher identifies confusion, a teacher understands emotion, question, weaknesses, and individual differences. A teacher can inspire a student to continue when the student feels like giving up. So, I don't see online education as the end of teacher. Instead, I see it's an opportunity to change the role of the teacher. The teacher can move from being a lecturer to becoming a facilitator, mentor, coach, designer, researcher, and learning guide. And this is particularly important in the age of artificial intelligence. AI can provide information very quickly, but human educators can provide wisdom, judgment, encouragement, ethical guidance, and meaningful human connections. One of the most interesting aspects of online education is the ability to combine different learning activities. A student doesn't necessarily have to watch a lecture passively. The course can include quizzes, it can include assignment, it can include discussion forums, it can include peer feedback, it can include practical exercises. It can include demonstration and simulation. This is important because learning is not simply watching. A person can watch 10 hours of educational video and still understand a very little. Real learning requires engagement. We need to think, we need to practice, we need to make mistakes, we need feedback, we need to apply knowledge. This is something educators can learn from online education, whether we are teaching telecommunication, electrical engineering, computer science, business, or any other subject. We should try to move students from passive listening towards active learning. This is another fascinating area. Online education can generate large amounts of learning data. For example, we can potentially observe which questions are difficult, where do students stop watching, which concepts generate confusion, how many attempts do students need, which type of exercises help learners improve. This information can help educators understand the learning process at much deeper level. In a traditional classroom, a teacher may have 30 or 40 students and limited time to understand every student learning behavior. But digital system can provide additional information. This creates the possibility of data informed education. However, we should be careful. Data should support teachers, not replace human judgment. A student learning journey cannot always be reduced to numbers. A low score might mean that a student didn't understand the topic, but it might also mean that student was distracted, stressed, working a job, facing technical problems, or dealing with other challenges. So data is powerful, but it needs human interpretation. Another important concept connected with large-scale online education is peer learning. When thousands of students participate in the same course, learners are no longer connected only to the instructor. They can learn from each other. One student may understand a mathematical concept particularly well. Another have practical industry experience. Another may come from a completely different cultural or educational background. When these learners interact, education becomes richer. This reminds us learning is not always only a one-way process. Sometimes student teaches the student, sometimes student teaches the teacher, and sometimes best explanation come from someone who struggled with same concept only a few days earlier. This is why discussion forums, collaborative projects, and peer assessment can be valuable components of online education. Now, as a reviewer, I don't think we should discuss online education only from positive perspective. There are real challenges. The first is digital access. Not everyone has a reliable internet connection. Not everyone owns a suitable computer. Not every learner has quiet place to study. So although online can democratize learning, it can also create another form of inequality if access to technology is not addressed. The second challenge is self-discipline. The physical classroom students have a schedule, they have classmates, they have an instructor physically present. Online learners often have much greater freedom, and freedom is wonderful, but it also requires responsibility. Many people register for online courses but never complete them. This shows that access to education is not enough. We also need motivation, discipline, support, and accountability. In my opinion, not completely. Universities provide much more than lectures. They provide labs, they provide research environment, they provide social interaction, they provide professional network, they provide mentorship, they provide opportunities for collaboration. And in many technical fields, hands-on experience is essential. For example, in engineering education, you cannot learn everything simply by watching videos. Student needs practical lab. They need instrument. They need experiments. They need exposure to real-world problems. So I believe future is not necessarily online versus offline. The future is likely to be online plus offline. This is where blended learning become extremely powerful. This is perhaps the biggest takeaway from the Daphne Koller talk. We don't need to wait for a complete transformation of the education system. Teachers can start applying these ideas today. For example, instead of spending entire classroom session explaining basic concepts, teachers can provide introductory material before the class. Then classroom time can be used discussing problem solving and practical work and questions. This is closely related to the idea of flipped classroom. Technology can handle some parts of information delivery. The classroom can focus more on interaction and application. Another lesson is to provide students with frequent feedback. Don't wait until the final examination to discover that student misunderstood a topic. Use small quizzes, use short assignment, ask questions, encourage students to explain concept. Let them learn from mistakes. For students, the message is equally important. Online education gives you unprecedented access to knowledge, but access is only the beginning. You need to become an active learner. Don't simply collect certificate. Don't simply watch videos. Don't measure learning by the number of courses you have completed. Instead, ask yourself, what can I actually do now that I couldn't do before? If you complete a networking course, can you configure a network? If you study programming, can you build something? If you learn AI, Can you solve a real problem? If you study communication, you can communicate more effectively. The real value of the education is transformation, not merely completion. Overall, I find Daphne Koller talk highly relevant because it challenges us to think differently about education. The most important lesson is not that online education is better than traditional education. The deeper lesson is that technology gives us opportunity to experiment with education. We can reach more learners, we can personalize things, we can provide faster feedback, we can encourage peer interaction, we can use data to understand learning patterns, and we can make education more flexible. But we should also remember that technology alone cannot solve every education problem. A powerful platform without good teaching is not enough. A great teacher without student engagement is not enough. And access without motivation is not enough. The best education system combines technology, teachers, learner, practice feedback, and human connection. Let me leave you with three questions. First, if technology allows us to redesign education system from scratch, what should we keep from a traditional classroom and what should we change? Second, are we using technology simply to deliver the same old lectures through a screen or are we actually creating better learning experience? Third, as artificial intelligence becomes increasingly powerful, what should remain uniquely human in education? These are questions that every teacher, student, education institution, and policymaker should think about. Daphne Koller reminds us that education is not a finished product. It is a system that continuously evolves. And perhaps the most important lesson from the online education in this, the future of education is not simply about putting education online. It's about understanding how people learn and using technology to help them learn better. I hope you found the TED Talk review useful and thought provoking. If you enjoyed the discussion, please like the video, share it with teachers, students, educators, and lifelong learners. And subscribe to the channel for more discussion reviews on education technology, artificial intelligence, leadership, and lifelong learning. I am Dr. Danish. Keep learning, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, never stop learning. Thank you for watching. Take care. Allah Hafiz.